welcome back to CityLine. With me, I have somebody on the couch who has been in their position one whole year. I am talking about the General Director of Tacoma Opera, and you must know how much I love Tacoma Opera. Welcome, Lim Fogarty. Aren't you just handsome sitting there?
Well, thank you. I like my blue suit.
I like your blue suit as well. Has it really been a year?
It's been a year. It's been a wild ride, let me tell you.
Yeah, tell us about that, because I mean, you, and I want to say this, you arrived on the scene and then you just shook everything up in the best possible way. Tacoma Opera is just coming from Carmen at the Pantages Theater, packed house, and boy, what a fantastic return to grand opera. But we're getting ready for a gala, aren't we?
We are. November the 18th. We're very excited for our Capriccio Gala. It's called Music, Moonlight, and Magic. And so we're very excited about presenting some of our new ideas and some of our great artists, and to really help us articulate art for a purpose, for community change.
Art for a purpose, community change. I love that. When we think about community, I mean, and to me, opera is such a tight-knit community.
Yes.
Excuse me, where did that come from? You're partnering with Catherine's Place. Tell us about that.
Well, all three of our operas bring a focus to women's issues, contemporary women's issues. You know, last year Tacoma Opera was privileged to present Tacoma Method, that talked about the violent expulsion of Chinese Americans from the city of Tacoma in the 1800s. But I really started thinking, you know, we have another epidemic in our society, and that is violence against women.
Thank you.
So all three of our operas focus on either women's issues that deal with violence or objectification or mental health, and the believability when women reach out for help, and the terrible sort of male-centric medical field that will oftentimes dismiss their cries for help.
Yeah.
And so we're looking at all three of our productions that focus around those issues, and I thought, what better way than to have some of our resources go back to an actual center in Tacoma that helps women in transition and crisis, and that's what Catherine Place is.
I have to tell you, in all transparency, I sit on the Catherine Place board, and I don't believe there is a better place, more qualified to do heart, mind, and soul healing than Catherine's Place. And that is what they do. I mean, they work on the spiritual and psychological after the damage has happened. I mean, and so for me, they are one of those just-in-time organizations that slides in and says, we're here, just in time, to talk about making a change in society, but also there is that awareness that, as you mentioned, we're bringing, including violence, mental health, objectification, and we also want to bring that woman's face to our community.
Yes.
And that's part of that social change, isn't it?
It really is. And so when we just produced Carmen, for instance,
right.
It was no coincidence that we produced Carmen in Domestic Violence Awareness Month. October. And as you know, when Carmen premiered, it shook the community, because it was the first time that a woman was really killed on stage violently. And so our director, Kelly Kitchens, who is a fantastic director and who works at Seattle Opera and all around the country, wanted to bring that violence right out into the front and affront our audiences with it, right in their face, and say, listen, this is violence against women is something that we have to talk about and deal with. And I tell you that we've received a few letters back from the community. We've had thousands of people thanking us, but a couple of letters said, you know, I'm so sorry that Carmen was so sexual. It really bothered me. Rather than talking about the violence, they focused on her sexual freedom. And I thought that was very telling, very interesting, that still our society would rather control, I think, a woman and what they think her actions or her personality should be, rather than hold a mirror up to ourselves and say, what is our responsibility when it comes to violence against women?
Wow, that's unprecedented in opera, because when I think about opera, Tosca, Carmen, Madame Butterfly, La Boheme.
Yes.
All of these tragic stories that have so much angst in them, but what else do they have in common? They hurt women.
Right. But they also hold up a mirror, I think, to our society and say, women are hurt in our society, so let's talk about it. People should leave the theater, I think, uncomfortable. If they don't leave uncomfortable, we haven't done our jobs.
Say that again.
People should leave the theater in a state of feeling uncomfortable, because if they haven't, we haven't done our jobs in communicating the true, real-life ramifications of violence and the experiences that we all have as a community. When women are objectified, we in our society are lessened, men as well.
Absolutely.
And so our new focus for Tacoma Opera is social change through music. Of course, we're going to do comedies as well, because comedy is part of the whole human experience. But it's not enough just to produce something beautiful. It's not enough to produce something grand. Art exists so that we can re-examine who we are. It's not who we are now also that we're looking at, it's where we're going and how we're getting there. That's really important.
Oh, God. Okay, this should be an hour interview on the couch because it is so important. You have a gala that is celebrating 3 new milestones. And galas are great for that, because when we say, how do you measure success for your programs? Many times we go, and you have a really great gala, and what's the message? So tell us what those milestones are.
Well, our first great milestone is called Opera Rise, and it's a new program that it was spearheaded by 2 women that are incredible in our community, Kathy McGauley and Nancy Campbell. And what they do is they get philanthropic individuals to fund young kids who could otherwise not afford to come to the opera. So for Carmen, we filled the balcony with high schoolers who could never have afforded to come. And I tell you, it was really incredible. They were dressed up in their prom clothes, and it was such a wonderful experience. That partners with our new young artists and children's program. So we've got a regular children's chorus now with the opera, but we also have an emerging artist program giving young artists their first steps. So we have kids watching and we have kids on the stage.
Wow.
And then finally, we are excited to look at what I had just talked about, which is the transforming nature of opera and how we can reach out to the community and make a practical and important difference.
Yeah. And boy, just now when you said children on stage, my mind went right up there with those children and thought, and here you are helping these children understand their social obligation as they grow up, to look at this music and to look at this drama and say, what parts do we keep? What parts do we not keep?
That's a great point. And I think that one of the pitfalls of opera has been that it has sort of pandered to an older crowd. And I'm proud to say that in our Carmen, we had a demographic that skewed much, much younger. We had scores of young people who had never seen opera before.
Oh my gosh.
And so as we look at this important art form, we also look at ways that we have to address our changing community and how these new voices come in and are a part of the recreation of the story of us.
Absolutely. The story of us. There it is. Let's talk about A Streetcar Named Desire. This is your next production. There is a pre-opening night Mardi Gras party. Yay! Complete with masks and everything. And then all proceeds go to our wonderful Catherine Place. Thank you so much. The best part is that, at least I feel like, is we get to witness this new operatic masterpiece based on the work of Tennessee Williams. Streetcar is February 6th, 7th, and 8th. How does Streetcar land in terms of violence with women?
That's a great question. The first thing that I want to talk about with Streetcar is that it deals with mental health and mental illness. So that's something that I think is often marginalized with women, especially. So the discussion of mental health needs to be more in the forefront. But the second thing is the character of Blanche reaches out when she's assaulted.
Yes.
And she's not believed because she's just considered
Hysterical.
woman.
Yes.
So instead of listening to her and believing her, they move her along to a mental health facility.
So we're going to stop it there because I don't want to give too much away, but I also want our audience to know that there is more on that story. Lim, I can't thank you enough for all that you're doing for our city. I cannot wait to be the MC for your gala.
Thank you.
And it's going to be an amazing night, and then I want you right back on this couch.
It's a deal.
All right.
Thank you.
When we come back for our final fabulous segment, we are going to have thrifting Halloween costumes. You don't want to miss that. We'll be right back.